Hello people and welcome to the madness that is Mac in VR. I'm looking at the sequel to Vertical Robot's well-loved franchise. Today I'm reviewing Red Matter 2.
What are you?
Red Matter 2 is a sequel to 2018's very well regarded Red Matter by the team at Vertical Robot. The game is set in a dystopian future where the Cold War of the 1950s never ended, technology has advanced massively but the art style has remained firmly stuck in the Soviet, or should I say Volgravian era. This gives the game its beautiful aesthetic which it sticks to throughout. It's breathtaking, quirky and unusual, but I'll get back to that later. This review is exclusive to the Quest 2 as I didn't have access to the PC VR version, but that comparison will follow on soon, so keep an eye on the channel for that. I want to talk about the gameplay, the story, the atmosphere of the game and the music, but most of all I want to talk about those graphics, because that is what made everyone do a double take when the Quest 2 demo trailer released. So, how good are the graphics on Quest 2? Frankly, they are astonishing. There is no other word to describe them. The first time I stepped out of my shuttle on one of Neptune's moons and looked up and around, I was blown away by the clarity, colour and sheer ferocity of the graphics around me. One of the other things that struck me was the scale. The base isn't just cramped claustrophobic corridors. The developers have injected some massive open spaces that boggle the mind in scale and volume. Stunning open spaces like the biosphere, the monorail and the grand arena at the heart of the base. The game runs on a heavily modified Unreal Engine. It has realistic particle reflections, volumetric lighting, metahumans, ray tracing and glass refraction. Walking up to one of the many lab windows to peer through the scratched glass or feeling creeped out by bloody handprints inside an experimental chamber is an experience that sticks in the mind. The art style is stunning and consistent throughout the game. You really do feel the Volgravians are stuck in that Soviet era timeline as the base is smothered in heroic, patriotic posters and references to the glories of the state. Now, I'm a content creator, so bearing in mind that I was recording in the headset or casting to my PC for much of my playthrough, and this happened. Not one frame drop, not a single stutter. The game ran buttery smooth throughout my entire playthrough. Didn't matter if I was in one of the cramped lab rooms or outside looking at a massive particle generator. Not a single frame drop, which in itself is astonishing. I'm guessing they are utilising synchronous spacewalk to make the game run so smoothly. SSW is a technique that halves the frame rate but then uses AI to interpolate an intermediate frame to maintain a steady 90 frames per second. This is the same technique that Green Hell used to make the Quest 2 version of the game so pretty. I wasn't going to say this because people are going to huff and puff, but I think that using this heavily modified Unreal Engine you could run Half-Life Alyx on a standalone Quest 2. Red Matter 2's graphics are that good. And I haven't even touched on the physics yet. There is a point later on in the game where you have to sweep away items from a shelf in front of you to take a shot at some pesky combat drones. My Half-Life Alyx spider senses went into overdrive. You can pick up a bottle of vodka and balance it on a clipboard. The bottle has weight and the liquid, which you can see through the refracted glass of the bottle, will move in a realistic way. Mind blown. Just simply peerless, and if I hadn't experienced it myself, I would not have believed that this was running on a standalone Quest 2. I'll move on to the story, atmosphere and gameplay next. The story is a continuation of Sasha's adventure in the original game, but you don't have to have played the original to enjoy Red Matter 2. The game gives you a brief overview at the beginning and you are drip-fed information throughout the game as to what you are doing and who the main protagonists are. The music in the game is sweeping, orchestral and very well suited to the game's atmosphere. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but the music is so well suited and so well implemented that it blends into the background and just becomes part of why this game is so good. Does that make sense? Gameplay. It doesn't matter how pretty a game looks if the gameplay doesn't back it up, and Red Matter 2 does back it up. To an extent. Why do I say that? Well, Red Matter 2 is a slow-paced exploration puzzle game with some combat. If that doesn't sound intriguing to you, then Red Matter is not the game for you. The basic premise is you arrive in an area, be that a gigantic monorail station or a small lab room. You then have to figure out how to progress, be that finding a fuse to power a door, cracking a server terminal to switch off a gun turret, or flying a drone around a room that you cannot get access to. Some of the puzzles were really tough. I mean mind-bending tough. There were a few situations where I genuinely did not know how to achieve my goal and stood scratching my head. My advice here, read all the notes, look in every corner, try to work the puzzle backwards and don't ignore Vlad. To do this, you have some basic tools on your little claw hand controllers, which is a very clever idea. They work as a mini gravity gun, a hacking tool, a scanner, a flashlight that can fire flares, and eventually a handgun. Combat is a bit hit and miss, as the drones you fight against are very swift, the gun overheats very quickly, fires quite slow-moving projectiles, and, forget Master Chief and his Mjolnir armour, Sasha is more of a baby suckling pig smeared in butter. Though this does make the encounters tense and frantic as you dash from cover to cover while desperately waiting for your gun to cool down. Best to fire short bursts. And you do have a health bar. It's on the left of the gun. Just saying that as I didn't realise till right near the end of the game, but I am a muppet. So why did I title this review a flawed masterpiece? Well, this game will not be to everyone's taste. It is a slow-paced puzzle game with a convoluted plot that gets a bit weird later on in the game. And I have finished the game. It took me between 8 and 10 hours, and I did really enjoy my time in Red Matter 2 as I became involved and addicted. But once you've finished, there's no reason to go back and do it all again. There's no point going back to play on a harder difficulty, no secrets to find, and no collectibles. You know me, I like a nice collectible. But if you like the idea of a slower paced, brain-testing puzzle action game, then Red Matter 2 is a glorious slice of graphical goodness, smothered with a great atmosphere, a well-paced puzzle up with a solid atmospheric soundtrack. I enjoyed it thoroughly, despite my reservations, and have no problems recommending the game. Plus it's only £22 in the UK, so it's a proper bargain too. More importantly, what do you think? Does a cerebral puzzle game with some action sound good to you, or are you put off by the slow-paced, less action-based gameplay? You know the drill. Get involved and comment down below. Well, that's it for today. I'm off to stamp denied on every Volgravian poster I can find. It's an in-joke. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Quite literally this time.